My roommate was a spoiled rich kid. First day of school, she accused me of stealing her necklace, one she claimed was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. She even secretly tucked a strand of hair and a red string under my pillow, trying to frame me into a ghost marriage with some vengeful spirit. I clutched the red string and smirked. Of all people, you just had to mess with me? Because I'm the Ghost King, straight from the underworld. The kind that makes even the nastiest ghouls bow twice before scurrying off. My heart of the ocean is gone. Hannah's shriek instantly grabbed the attention of our other roommates. Nora was the first to rush over. Is it that diamond necklace worth hundreds of thousands? Yes, the blue diamond one my dad bought at auction. It was in my bag just a minute ago. Hannah loved to flash her cash, and the other roommates were eager to suck up to her. They immediately dropped what they were doing and started searching. I just sat there, reading my book. Ever since the first day, after she'd seen my face and frozen for a few seconds, she'd been targeting me, sometimes subtly, sometimes not. Hannah, there's one place we haven't looked. The group came over, intending to rifle through my bag. Sorry, not happening. Hearing me, Hannah and Nora exchanged a look. Annie, what's the big deal if we just take a look? Or are you saying you did take my necklace? Hannah sneered. After all, this one necklace is worth more than you'll make in half a lifetime. We're all roommates here. If you just give it back now, I won't even be mad. The girls standing behind them started whispering, maybe Annie really lost her mind and stole Hannah's necklace. Her family's so poor after all. Hearing this, Hannah's smile deepened. While I wasn't looking, she snatched my bag. Then her hand dived straight for the inner compartment. I sensed something was off. Sure enough, she pulled the necklace out of my bag. It really was Annie who stole it. You can't judge a book by its cover. TSK, TSK, TSK. Seeing the triumphant glint in Hannah's eyes, I suddenly understood why she did it. The campus queen election was coming up, and her vote count was way lower than mine. If I got busted for stealing right now, Hannah would naturally become number one. But God knows, I couldn't care less about being some campus queen. Even that stupid diamond necklace she was holding? I had tons of them back in my place. I crossed my arms, looking at them. Since you won't listen to my explanation, then let's send this for testing. See if it has my fingerprints on it. Hannah froze. Clearly, she hadn't expected me to say that. Nora whispered from the side, Hannah, should we still go to the RA? You go if you want to. Hannah shoved her little follower aside, shot me a vicious glare, and slammed the door as she left. Nora stood there, her hair falling to hide the dark look on her face. I went back to my seat and my novel. Seriously, these human novels, so trashy, but so addictive. The only reason I'd tolerated Hannah until now was pure boredom. These little squabbles were at least some entertainment for me. But I never expected her to stoop to such a vile trick to frame me. After class, I got back to the dorm, and as soon as I got into bed, I sensed something was off. During this, Hannah shot me a few panicked glances before quickly looking away. My expression hardened. I ripped the pillow off my bed. There, a single strand of hair and a strange red string lay on my bed. I picked them up for a closer look. The red string was covered in tiny, densely packed characters. The strand of hair was impossible to break. I smiled, my face blank. This was a ghost marriage setup. Resting your head on these things meant you accepted a vengeful spirit's betrothal gift. And that night, the spirit would come for you. After putting the items back, I lay down as if nothing had happened. I really wanted to know where Hannah had learned such a sinister method. After I closed my eyes, I clearly felt the temperature around me dropping. A cold, familiar aura slowly crept in. I was conscious but couldn't move. A few seconds later, the aura felt increasingly familiar. I cursed inwardly. Damn it, felt like I was back home. Then a sinister, ghostly voice cackled in my ear, open your eyes. Ha ha ha. That voice was familiar too. Where had I heard it? I slowly opened my eyes, looked at the ghostly face before me, and gave a wicked smile. Well, hello there, Pockface Wong. The ghost, who had been baring its fangs, froze. It let out a yelp and floated far back, pointing at me with a trembling finger. Holy crap. What the hell are you doing back here? I casually picked a piece of fruit from the wedding tray next to me and popped it in my mouth. Then I grinned at the cowering ball of ghost. Weren't you the one who wanted to marry me? The ghost's bulging eyes went wide, and it shook its head so hard it nearly rattled off. No, not me. Don't you go spreading rumors. Remembering all those years I'd worked him to the bone in the underworld, the ghost shivered. Who'd dare marry you, the Ghost King? Does he have a death wish? I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Spit it out. What's going on? Why are you here? Pockface Wong said he saw an old sorcerer recruiting vengeful spirits for ghost marriages with humans. He'd been single for centuries, and you know how humans are with all their romantic holidays, so this lonely ghost wanted to get in on the action. I looked him over, his half-missing head and the long tongue lolling out of his mouth, and pondered for a few seconds. With your assets, you're worried you can't find another half-wit? I mean a nice cool girl? Listen, no rush. Hearing this, the ghost was overjoyed. He got so excited half a finger fell off. I hopped off the red wedding bed. All right, I gotta go. My dear roommate is waiting for me. Just as I suspected. The moment I opened my eyes, I sensed a shadowy figure lurking by my bed, trying to peek through the gap in my bed curtains. I yanked the curtains open, scaring the peeper into a loud shriek. Hannah clutched her chest, shaken, and complained loudly, Annie, what are you doing? Don't you know popping up like that scares people? I asked her with a half smile. And what were you doing here? A flicker of panic crossed Hannah's face. And nothing. Just wanted to see if you wanted a snack. As if suddenly remembering something, she eagerly asked, oh right, Annie, how did you sleep last night? Seeing the clear anticipation in Hannah's eyes, I deliberately frowned. Don't even ask. I think I had a terrible nightmare. Couldn't wake up, and now my whole body aches. Hearing the answer she wanted, Hannah's pretty face relaxed. A smile bloomed on her face. Annie, you really should thank me. Now, just enjoy what's coming. After dropping that ominous line, she turned and went back to her own bed. And I watched her back, a slow smile spreading across my lips. Hannah, you're the one who should be enjoying it. After all, a matchmaker whose ghost marriage fails gets hunted down by 10,000 demons. After that, we were woken up by Hannah's screams every night. You go find Annie. Don't come after me. Don't come over. Don't come over. Nora climbed down from her bed, ready to wake her. Hannah, what's wrong? Wake up. Don't chase me. Hannah thrashed her arms, screaming wildly. What do we do? Is Hannah having a night terror? We can't wake her up. Nora looked at us anxiously at a loss. We should call an ambulance. Just then I spoke up. Everyone move. I have a way. You think you can do anything? Let me tell you, Hannah's dad is the CEO of Apex Corporation. If anything happens to her, your poor family could never afford to pay. All right then. I yawned. Turned to leave. I'm going back to sleep. Nora, seeing I was really about to leave, quickly grabbed me. Oh, fine. Just try something quick. But I'm warning you, don't try anything funny. My lips curled. I stepped forward and rolled up my sleeves. Raised my hand and smack. Landed a perfect, massive slap right across Hannah's face. Everyone else was stunned. You, how dare you? Before Nora could finish, Hannah shrieked and snapped awake. She was drenched, cold sweat pouring down her face, her wide eyes bloodshot. Seeing Nora, she clung to her hand like a lifeline. Why are those things coming after me? Hannah, Nora said, wiping the cold sweat from her forehead with a slight smile. Look at you, so scared by a nightmare. I'll sleep with you tonight. Looking at the smile on Nora's face, I felt something was off. Because she was being hounded by demons so often lately, the slightest noise would make Hannah scream. She had no energy to fix herself up, often going to class with her hair a total mess. Naturally, her campus queen title was out of reach. Girls in class she used to bully whispered, look at Hannah now. It's karma. For campus queen, she burned my hair with a lighter. And now she didn't even get picked. Annie might be poor, but she's way prettier than her. So what if her family has some money? Who does she think she is? Shut up, all of you. Hannah flipped a desk and started fighting with the two girls. When the teacher pulled them apart, her eyes, fixed on me, were filled with venom and resentment. I smiled faintly and met her gaze without flinching. After school, when everyone else had left, Hannah called out to me from behind. Annie, you must be feeling pretty smug right now, huh? Jealousy twisted her usually sweet face. So what if you beat me? It doesn't change the fact that you're used goods. I've hated you since the first time I saw you. Why should someone like you in your cheap $10 clothes act so high and mighty? Why should a lowlife like you try to take my things? Seeing I was still unfazed, Hannah's eyes grew redder. I'm telling you, you're just damaged goods, messed up by those ghostly things. I bet nobody else knows, haha. My eyes flashed. I teleported in front of her and grabbed her neck with one hand. Gasp. Hannah made agonized sounds, her face turning purple. That ghost marriage you set up? It just sent me home for a visit. I patted her cheek with my other hand. Want to know what it feels like to be torn apart by 10,000 demons? As soon as I spoke, ghost generals materialized behind me, one after another. They advanced slowly, their iron chains dragging on the ground with a harsh scraping sound. I turned and ordered these ghost generals from the underworld. Her mouth is so foul. Slice off half her tongue. The ghost generals bowed their heads in obedience. They were the Ghost King's most loyal servants. Having your tongue sliced by a ghost doesn't make you completely mute. You just develop an incurable stutter. But Hannah was so proud this would be worse than death for her. I turned my gaze to Hannah, who was already scared stiff. She pretended to be calm, but inside, she was panicking. You think you can scare me with a few projections? I laughed. Projections? In a moment, when you're screaming in agony, you'll know if they're projections. Not wanting to hear her yelp anymore, I turned and walked out of the classroom. Annie, you just wait. If you dare touch me, my dad will destroy you. How are they moving? Don't come near me. Ah. The sounds behind me turned into pure screams of terror. Lately, a little ghost had been following me around. Wherever I went, this little ghost followed. Keep following me, and believe it or not, I'll eat you. He reluctantly stopped, shyly tugging at the hem of his clothes. You smell so good. I'm hungry. Strange. Usually when people die and become ghosts, they're missing limbs or look hideous. But he alone looked just as he did when he was alive. His spirit form was also very weak, like he could dissipate at any moment. No wonder he said I smelled good. A ghost king's aura is rich with ghostly energy, a perfect place to nourish a spirit form. I stroked my chin, thinking, maybe I'll just take him on as a little follower. Let's get this straight, I wasn't taking him in because he was good looking. Though this little ghost was indeed handsome. His white shirt was spotless. A total campus heartthrob type. Having made up my mind, I asked him, "What's your name?" The young man's eyes blinked with a lost look. "My name is Miles. I don't remember anything from before." "Oh, an amnesiac ghost." I patted his shoulder and said earnestly, "From now on, you stick with me. My Vortislav. You must obey, got it?" The young man agreed obediently, a dimple appearing on his right cheek. Not bad, this follower was worth it. Just looking at him was pleasing to the eye. I often suspected Miles was a spy sent by my arch-nemesis, aiming to disturb my ghost heart, which had been quiet for thousands of years. He always looked at me with those soulful eyes. If I asked what he was looking at, his eyes would crinkle, sparkling as he replied, "Annie's pretty." I'd reach out and roughly ruffle his hair. "Pretty or not, don't stare so much. You're bothering me, you know?" Miles would let out an unhappy mmm. But a few seconds later, he'd whisper proudly from the side. "Then I'll look secretly, so Annie won't find out. Get lost and go repair your spirit form." On the way back to the dorm, the school's main entrance was packed with people. Hannah had a new boyfriend, supposedly a prince from M country. Even the principal had to come out to greet him personally. I glanced over. Hannah, in a black dress, was arm in arm with a tall, handsome man, a smug smile back on her face. But I frowned. When did Hannah become like this? Even the smallest size dress hung loosely on her, as if draped over a skeleton. Her eye sockets were deeply sunken. She was shockingly thin. It was like someone had sucked all the moisture and nutrients out of her. The man beside her gently tucked her hair back, instantly drawing envious gazes from the surrounding girls. Hannah, meanwhile, lowered her head shyly, her gaze fixed on him with utter adoration. Strange, there was something about this man, an aura that I found deeply repulsive. My fingers twitched. I used my ghost-seeing eyes to examine Hannah's caring and gentle boyfriend. Behind him was an overwhelming miasma of ghostly energy, and I could clearly see countless spirits clinging to his shoulders, vengeful ghosts preparing to claim his life. When I got back to the dorm room, Hannah was surrounded by girls from our class. The already small room felt even more crowded. Hannah, I'm so jealous you have such a handsome boyfriend. I've made a fool of myself plenty, but I've never kissed a prince. Can you even compare yourself to Hannah? She's just lucky. Their chatter was like a noisy market. Could you please all step out for a moment? I stood in the middle of them, my eyes fixed on them. A flicker of embarrassment crossed their faces. They looked at me reproachfully, as if blaming me for being so clueless. Hannah put on a sweet smile. It really has been too long. Annie's always like this. Oops, no, I mean her schedule is very regular. We're the ones disturbing her. That was dripping with fake sweetness, and it immediately annoyed some of them. Seriously? She thinks she's so special. No wonder she has no friends. Yeah, so clueless. She's definitely not going far in life. As they turned to leave, I tossed a couple of nightmare curses onto the two who had just spoken, ensuring they'd have a very eventful sleep tonight. Now it was just me and Hannah left in the room. I clucked my tongue. Haven't seen you in a bit. Your passive-aggressive skills have really improved. Been practicing? You. Hannah wanted to explode, but forced herself to hold back. The smile on her lips deepened. Annie, aren't you curious? Those ghostly things sliced off half my tongue. Yet I can still speak. Can't I? I was a little curious. Logically, the ghost generals never missed. But Hannah hadn't developed a stutter. In fact, her voice was even more pleasant than before. Seeing my confusion, she huffed smugly. Well, you won't be arrogant for much longer. I'll tell you the truth. It was Andre. He helped me get a new tongue, imported from abroad at great expense. A tongue? An idea struck me. I lunged forward and pried open her mouth. What are you doing? Impeach. Hannah struggled to get away, but I still got a clear look at her tongue. Just as I thought. I let her go, sneering. Imported from abroad? That's clearly a dead person's tongue you've got in there. A normal person's tongue is light red, but Hannah's was half bright red and half a ghastly bluish white. The bluish white part even had death spots on it. I'll give you a piece of advice. If you don't want to die so quickly, stay away from that boyfriend of yours. Impossible. Hannah instantly retorted. Andre is a prince from M country. He wouldn't lie to me. Oh, I get it, she drawled, looking at me suspiciously. Annie, are you deliberately trying to sabotage my relationship with Andre so you can swoop in and take my place? After all, I'm going to be a princess. And you? You'll end up with some broke loser and have a bunch of broke kids. Haha. Hannah covered her mouth, giggling uncontrollably. I spat out 2 words for her. Idiot. Moron. Borrowed things from the dead. They always have to be repaid. Miles followed me out and asked, confused, Annie, she's so awful. Why did you even bother warning her? I smiled nonchalantly and ruffled the little ghost's hair again. No idea what shampoo he used when he was alive, but his hair was so soft. Having such an amusing idiot bouncing around in front of me every day at least gives me some entertainment. Ghost kings have existed for millennia. We've long lost any concept of time. My unreliable parents ditched the throne and happily went off on a honeymoon. So, teasing Hannah now and then is one of my few pleasures. I shook my head. Too bad. You can't talk a determined ghost out of dying. Miles took my hand and gently squeezed it. Then I'll always stay with Annie, so Annie won't be lonely. I turned to look at him. The young man's handsome eyes crinkled slightly, sparkling like a galaxy. What I didn't know was that after I left, Hannah stared at my back with a vicious look in her eyes, then pulled out her phone. She cooed sweetly into the phone, Honey, can you take care of Annie for me tonight? I want her to disappear from this world completely. The voice on the other end was hoarse and grating, but Hannah still smiled sweetly. Okay, thank you, darling. So, when are we going to M country? I'll wait for you. Hanging up, Hannah emotionlessly took out a dark, foul-smelling talisman and swallowed it. Annie, you thing that's neither human nor ghost, just go die. At the same time, my right pinky finger twitched slightly. An indescribable tingling numbness spread from my arm, throughout my body. Miles was the first to notice something was wrong with me. Annie, what's happening? I shook my arm, a cold smile on my face. Nothing. Just someone looking for death. Before I passed out, I sent a message to someone, no, to be precise, to a ghost. My dear Pockface Wong. When I opened my eyes again, Miles and I were trapped in a sealed room plastered with red and white joy characters. I flopped lazily onto the large wedding bed and couldn't help but sigh. Me, a thousands of years old spinster ghost, getting into 2 ghost marriages in just a few days. People sure are accommodating. Miles had been excitedly playing with the little tassels on the wedding clothes, but when he heard me, even the tassels seemed to droop. By the faint candlelight, I looked Miles over. The red clothes made his face look even more delicate and pale. I beckoned to him with a finger. Little ghost, ever heard of the living dead? Miles shook his head. The living dead means if we can't get out of this room within a day, we'll melt into a pool of blood, and our souls will be trapped here for eternity, never to escape. Actually, it wasn't nearly that serious. I just thought he was cute and wanted to tease him a bit. Who knew this guy would reach out, stroke my head, and say gently, Annie, don't be scared. I have a way. What could a little ghost with almost zero ghostly power do? Seeing my doubt, Miles winked playfully, smiling brightly. As long as I self-destruct my spirit form, you can leave. My heart lurched. I looked up at him in disbelief. Miles, why are you so good to me? Besides my unreliable parents, this was the first time anyone had been unconditionally good to me. Miles looked blank. An image flashed in his mind, a silhouette, it seemed, but when he tried to grasp it, it was gone. I cupped his face, my voice tinged with seduction. I know another way out. Want to try it? Staring at my face so close to his, he stammered, what? That is, we do everything a newlywed couple should do on their wedding night. After I said it, I saw a blush creep from Miles's ears all the way to his cheeks. He gave a tiny hum. Then he gave a very soft, faint smile. I didn't know why, but my chest felt increasingly hot, and I swallowed just a little. Just as the atmosphere was growing more and more intimate, a powerful, resonant shout pierced through from outside. Is that the Ghost King? Is that the Ghost King? I'm here, Ghost King. Pockface, you idiot. You're the damn turtle. Your whole family are damn turtles. Pockface Wong was wrecking things outside, and I used my ghostly power inside the room. Soon the whole spell formation collapsed. I picked up a fragment from the ground and pocketed it. This could be very useful. When we got out, Pockface Wong looked at Miles, then at me, and his face fell. Are you getting a new follower? You fickle, heartless woman. He sobbed and wailed, bloody tears streaming down as if they were worthless. I couldn't stand it anymore and raised my fist. Cry again and see if I don't punch you. Only then did Pockface Wong relax. That's more like it. That familiar feeling. Miles turned and asked me, this is? Him. Just some fool. Got run over by a car trying to save a kid. Half his head was crushed, limbs all messed up. I was passing by and took him in. Otherwise, he would have been devoured by other vengeful spirits sooner or later. Pockface Wong raised a hand, trying to cover his damaged head. Sorry, pal. I look too gruesome. Didn't mean to scare you. Miles shook his head and said very seriously, no, you look great. This was the first time any ghost had ever called Pockface Wong good-looking. He grinned, showing his mouth full of broken teeth, and laughed shyly. I told them to be careful for the next few days. The person pulling the strings from behind wouldn't give up easily. The next day in class, everyone looked dazed. I asked my deskmate, what's wrong with everyone? My deskmate, Rose, lowered her voice. You haven't heard? Hannah's dead. They said when she was found, she was covered in several layers of white sheets, wrapped up so tight no one was allowed to look. But when they were loading her onto the ambulance, an arm fell out. And guess what? It looked like the hand of an 80 or 90-year-old, covered in age spots. Hearing Rose's words, I fell deep into thought. I'd have to go to the funeral home tonight and take a look. Maybe Hannah's death could help me figure out who was behind all this. During the long break between classes, Nora was slumped over her desk, sobbing. The whole class went to comfort her. They all knew Nora and Hannah were best friends, so Hannah's sudden death must have been a huge blow to her. People offered tissues, offered words of comfort. Suddenly, Nora lifted her head from the desk, her eyes red as she looked at me. Annie, where were you yesterday? Why weren't you here when Hannah? She couldn't finish her sentence, collapsing into the arms of a boy next to her, her thin shoulders trembling uncontrollably. The boy held her with pity in his eyes, then glared at me reproachfully. Can't you see Nora's devastated? Have some compassion. Where were you yesterday? Spit it out. I shot back, where was I? How about at your place? Does that count? Besides, I looked at Nora's face, which was even paler and more delicate than before. Hannah's dead. Are you really sad? I stared intently into her eyes, not missing a single detail. Sure enough, the second I asked that, a strange flicker passed through Nora's eyes. Some people started saying I was cold-blooded, defending her. I looked at them coldly. You can be stupid, but don't be so stupid you don't even know how you died in the end. Annie, are you crazy? How dare you curse us? Not wanting to waste any more time on them, I walked out of the classroom. Arriving at the funeral home, I quickly used my ghost eyes to find Hannah's body. Although I had expected it, when I lifted the white sheet, I was still shocked by the sight. A girl in her early 20s had turned into the corpse of an 80 or 90-year-old woman. Her silver hair was like withered grass, her wrinkled skin covered in age spots and death spots. No one would recognize this as Hannah. I put on gloves and pried open her mouth to examine it. The half of a dead person's tongue I'd seen before was gone. It must have returned to its original owner. I took out a talisman. It flew up, circled Hannah's body a few times, then returned to my hand. When the person who harmed Hannah appeared again, the talisman would lead me to them. My intuition told me that Hannah's killer and the person who tried to trap me were one and the same. The next few days were calm. Just when everyone had let their guard down, the second victim appeared. This time, the victim was a boy. His death was very similar to Hannah's, as if his life essence had been suddenly drained. This time, the school completely panicked and quickly sent the students home on break. I went to the scene and carefully examined the boy. He looked familiar. I remembered. He was one of Hannah's lackeys, always involved in bullying other students. Just then, the talisman in my pocket became scorching hot. My eyes narrowed. They're here. I followed the talisman all the way to the abandoned mountain behind the school. From a dilapidated classroom, a sudden, agonized cry echoed. I opened the door and saw a tall man in a suit sucking the blood of a girl in his arms. The room was filled with a nauseating bloody stench. It was Hannah's boyfriend, Andre. Seeing me barge in, Andre tossed the person in his arms aside and wiped the blood from his chin. Well, another little beauty. Are you here for me to play with? Go play with yourself. You killed Hannah, didn't you? Oh, her? Andre licked his lips, savoring the memory. That chick tasted pretty good. Just a bit too noisy, always pestering me to take her home to be some princess. Ridiculous. But if it's you, darling, it'll be different. I guarantee you'll have a very, very pleasant experience. Oh yes. Damn, I felt like I'd just chugged a gallon of cooking oil. You were also the one who tried to trap me with that ghost marriage spell, right? Today we settle all accounts. Andre clutched his stomach, roaring with laughter. So it was you. The thing Hannah called neither human nor ghost. You want to fight me? You're seriously overestimating yourself. He pointed to the girl on the floor. To tell you the truth, she's the final ingredient for my dark arts cultivation. I'm as powerful as a vengeful spirit now. What can you possibly do to me? As soon as he finished speaking, a ball of black energy formed in his palm and shot towards me. I sidestepped, quickly dodging it. Then I kicked him in the stomach. Andre grunted, his eyes glaring at me fiercely. I smiled nonchalantly. You're a vengeful spirit? Then, how about you see what I am? Andre didn't care, even mocking me as just a little ghost he was about to devour. I curled my lips into a smile. Is that so? Then you better watch closely. The power of the Ghost King surged. The ground beneath our feet began to shake violently. Countless ghosts clawed their way out of the earth, crawling towards Andre. How is this possible? You're the Ghost King? Andre's expression changed from initial composure to utter terror. He kept swatting away the ghosts climbing up, but an endless stream of them still clung to his trouser legs. Among them were many ghosts he had killed, each one filled with deep resentment. Andre screamed in panic, all his earlier arrogance gone. Ghost King, I beg you. I shouldn't have opposed you. Please spare me. Without a word, I kicked him straight into the abyss beneath the earth. Keep your life and go repent to them properly. Andre let out a final wail and was completely swallowed by the abyss. I left the rest for Miles to handle. After thinking for a moment, I went to the academic building. On the second floor, faint sounds of crying came from an empty classroom. Following the sound, I found Nora. She was huddled under a desk, trembling all over. I frowned at her. Nora, what are you doing here? Hearing my voice, she seemed to see a glimmer of hope. I didn't get to leave yet. I'm so scared, sob. She clung to me tightly. Annie, thank goodness you subdued Andre. Who would have thought he was a murderer? Hannah was killed by him too. It's so terrifying. My eyes blinked once. I calmly helped her up. Let's get out of here first. After we'd walked a short distance, Miles caught up. Annie, I've taken care of everything. He tilted his head up, like a little puppy waiting for its owner's praise. I played along and praised him, good boy. Just then, the person beside me asked hesitantly, Miles. I looked at Nora. You know him? You can see ghosts too? Yes. My grandfather was a spiritualist. I inherited some of his abilities. As for Miles, a strange smile touched Nora's lips. We used to be quite acquainted. Nora said Miles had been the school's golden boy, smart, good-looking, but one day, he suddenly disappeared. No one knew where he went. Nora tucked her hair behind her ear. I never thought you'd show up here. Looking at you, you must have amnesia, right? Strangely, Miles looked at Nora with unfriendly eyes and didn't answer. I patted his head. It's okay. You'll remember things slowly later on. The smile on Nora's lips slowly faded. She suddenly said shyly, Annie, can you come with me for a sec? I think my bra strap came loose. I looked at her for a long moment, then said sure. As I got up, Miles grabbed my arm. Annie, don't go. I ruffled his hair. I'll be right back. Nora led me quite a distance before stopping. Her beautiful eyes were filled with confusion. Actually, I'm quite curious. Why would someone fall in love with the same person twice, even with amnesia? So you must die. Her eyes suddenly turned vicious. Countless vines shot towards me from all directions. I was completely unprepared and pinned down by them. Nora laughed triumphantly. Some ghost king. You're not so tough after all. But the next second, the clear sound of something sharp piercing flesh was heard. Nora spat out a mouthful of black blood and turned in disbelief. How are you not dead? I pushed hard, and the fragment embedded itself directly into Nora's body. The one who really killed Hannah was you. The one who tried to trap me with the spell was also you. Andre was just working for you. Looking at her bewildered expression, I wiped the blood from my hand. Nora, I never told you that I was the one who subdued Andre. Hannah's death. You planned it step by step, didn't you? She probably never imagined before she died that her best friend would be the one to kill her. Don't you dare talk to me about best friends. Nora shouted in rage, her face contorted. That bitch Hannah just treated me like her punching bag. I told her about the ghost marriage. I introduced her to Andre. She was so stupid. It was hilarious, ha 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 ha. My face was blank. She was just stupid. You're the one who's truly evil. That fragment was a remnant of her spell formation, and also the most effective weapon against Nora. Nora coughed up more blood foam, then looked at me and suddenly laughed. Then I'll tell you one more thing. Miles. I killed him too, you know. My movements paused. Nora continued through gritted teeth, who asked him to save me but then reject my confession. He was so high and mighty, so I had to drag him down into the mud. If I can't have something, I'll destroy it rather than let anyone else have it. So that's your excuse for killing me? Miles slowly walked out. He spoke softly. I should have let you be bullied by others back then. Because you didn't deserve to be saved. Nora's eyes were so red they looked like they might bleed. She stared daggers at Miles. And what about you? How does it feel to be forgotten by everyone? Oh, I heard your mother went crazy not long ago. I stepped forward and fiercely grabbed Nora's neck. People like you are the most disgusting existence. Her selfish desires destroyed a young man's every happiness. I summoned 10,000 hungry ghosts. Nora screamed as they tore her apart. From now on, every day of your existence will be a living hell. Miles looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed, like a lost child who couldn't find his way home. Annie, I want to go home. I held his hand tightly. Okay, let's go home. This was the first time I'd seen Miles's home, a small but cozy house. On a cabinet, there was a photo of Miles when he was 14. A boyish teen, holding a trophy, smiling shyly. We saw Miles's mother holding the photo, gently stroking it, a tender smile on her face. Miles, sweetie, she murmured, when you're done playing, come home soon, okay? Mommy really misses you. Miles's father came out and gently coaxed his wife back into the room, like soothing a child. Outside the room, Miles covered his face, sobbing uncontrollably. He cried out, Mom, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I shouldn't have saved her. I hugged him. You did nothing wrong. The ones at fault are those who repay kindness with malice. They build their happiness on others' pain. They're the real demons. When he had calmed down a bit, Miles led me to a peach tree. Annie, this is where I was buried. He looked at me reluctantly. Annie, once a ghost's memories return, I'll have to go for reincarnation. Will you wait for me? I touched his face, but I couldn't smile anymore. Duh. Miles smiled faintly and pressed his lips to my forehead. After I faded away, then you can dig it up, okay? I'm afraid I won't look good, and Annie won't want me anymore. I nodded, choking back tears. A gentle breeze blew past, and the young man's figure slowly faded away. Lips pressed tight. I dug up the place where Miles was buried with my own hands. This silly boy. He was clearly very handsome. I picked up the doll and the letter clutched tightly in the young man's hand. It read, Annie, I hope you like this doll. And maybe you could like me a little too. Holding the letter, I could almost see a young man in a white shirt, smiling beautifully, reaching out his hand to me. So, we had missed each other for so long. The end.